She once joked that she'd been declared dead so many times online she'd lost count. "I ain't dead yet," she said with a laugh just months ago. Today, for the first time, that's no longer true, and the world is trying to figure out how to say goodbye to a woman who spent 60 years telling us she'd always love us back. Dolly Parton's family confirmed today that she has died at the age of 80. The announcement came from her nephew, Brian Seaver, who has served as her head of security for over 2 decades, a role his own father held before him. In a video message, he said it was an honor mixed with absolute pride and great sadness, adding that Dolly had asked him years ago to be the one to deliver this message when the time came. Early life: the girl from the cabin. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born January 19, 1946, in a one-room cabin on the banks of the Little Pigeon River in Pittman Center, Tennessee. She was the fourth of 12 children, not the baby, not the oldest, just one voice in a very crowded house. Her father built things out of nothing. Lee Parton worked as a sharecropper before scraping together his own small tobacco farm, picking up construction work on the side to make ends meet. He never learned to read or write. Dolly has said it anyway without hesitation. He was one of the smartest people she's ever known when it came to money. Her mother gave her the music. Avi Lee had 11 pregnancies in 20 years, including a set of twins, and was a mother of 12 by age 35. Often sick, always working, she still filled the house with Smoky Mountain folklore and old Welsh ballads passed down through generations. Dolly credits that side of the family for her voice, and her father's side for her business sense. Two very different inheritances, both showing up decades later. Church came before fame. The Partons were Pentecostal, and Dolly's grandfather pastored their local congregation. That's where she first performed in public, age 6. At 7 she was playing a homemade guitar. At 8 her uncle bought her a real one. The stage was a pulpit long before it was anything else. Then came Locust Ridge. The family moved to a 2-room cabin on nearby Locust Ridge while Dolly was still young, and this, not Pittman Center, is the childhood she actually remembers. It's the land that became my Tennessee mountain home. They lived there 6 or 7 years, dirt poor by her own description, the kind of poverty she'd later turn into coat of many colors, and in the good old days, when times were bad. Her father paid the doctor who delivered her with a sack of cornmeal. There simply wasn't cash to give. But she started performing before she was even a teenager. Local radio, local TV, all before she hit double digits. By 10 she had a regular spot on the Cass Walker Show in Knoxville. At 13 she cut her first single and played the Grand Ole Opry stage, where she met Johnny Cash, who told her to trust her own instincts and ignore everyone else's advice. The rise. Her early years in Nashville were a grind, writing hits for other singers before anyone would let her sing her own. She wrote top 10 hits for other artists before she ever charted one herself, and by 19 she'd already been pitched and rejected as a bubblegum pop singer by a label that thought her high soprano wasn't suited to country music. Her break came in 1967, joining Porter Wagoner's television show, though it took years of fighting to be taken seriously as more than his duet partner. Even then, some of Wagoner's own audience booed her for months, still wanting the singer she'd replaced. She pushed through it. By 1971 she had her first #1 solo single, Joshua, and the song that became her signature, Coat of Many Colors, written about a homemade coat her mother stitched from rags, and the other kids who mocked her for wearing it. Her music, the songs, and the catalog. What Dolly Parton built with music is almost impossible to summarize in numbers, but the numbers help. Over the course of her career she wrote more than 3,000 songs, sold over 100 million records, and became the female artist with the most #1 hits in Billboard country chart history, 25 of them. She holds the record among any artist for the most career top 10 country albums. She earned 11 Grammy Awards from 55 nominations, the third most Grammy nominations of any woman ever. She wrote, "I Will Always Love You," in 1973 as a farewell message to Porter Wagoner when she left his show to go solo. It topped the country charts twice for her, in 1974 and again in 1982. When Elvis Presley's camp wanted to record it, his manager demanded she sign over half the publishing rights, as was standard for any song Elvis recorded. She said no. 2 decades later, Whitney Houston's version 4, The Bodyguard, became one of the best-selling singles by a woman in music history, and because Dolly held onto those rights, that decision alone made her a fortune. She never stayed in one lane. She wrote Jolene, a song so enduringly covered that artists across genres still record it 50 years later. She wrote 9 to 5, reportedly using the sound of her own acrylic fingernails clicking together as the rhythm that built the song, which hit #1 on the country, pop, and adult contemporary charts simultaneously, a rare triple crown. In the 80s and 90s she pushed further into pop with producers like Gary Klein, then swung back into traditional roots with bluegrass albums like The Grass is Blue and Little Sparrow, each one winning Grammys in categories most pop crossover stars would never touch. She was also a collaborator again and again across genres and generations. The trio albums with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt, duets with Kenny Rogers including Islands in the Stream, a Grammy-winning cover of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, gospel work, and in 2023 at 77 years old, an entire rock album called Rockstar featuring Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Elton John, Stevie Nicks, and Miley Cyrus, becoming her highest-charting solo album ever. In 2022 she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an honor she initially tried to turn down, saying it was for the people in rock music, until she was told to accept it anyway and did. Her songs have been sung back to her by nearly every generation of artists that came after Whitney Houston, Miley Cyrus, Reba McEntire, Shania Twain, Sinead O'Connor, Alison Krauss, Norah Jones. Proof that the songs a poor girl from a one-room cabin wrote for herself ended up belonging to everyone. Beyond music. But Dolly was never just a singer. She built an empire. Dollywood, her theme park in the Smoky Mountains, drew over 3 million visitors a year. She helped fund the early research behind the Moderna COVID vaccine with a $1 million donation. Her literacy program, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, mailed free books to children from birth until kindergarten. More than 100 million books, in 5 countries, all in honor of her father, who never learned to read. She turned down the Presidential Medal of Freedom 3 times. She turned down a statue in her own honor, saying she didn't think putting herself on a pedestal was appropriate. And when Tennessee lawmakers wanted to celebrate her, she asked them not to. For almost 60 years she was married to a man most of the world never saw. Carl Dean ran an asphalt paving business in Nashville and almost never appeared publicly at Dolly's side. By her own account, he saw her perform only once. He died in March of 2025, and the year that followed was, by Dolly's own admission, one of the hardest of her life. She postponed a Las Vegas residency. She missed her own 80th birthday celebration at the Grand Ole Opry. She told fans just last week that she was still healing, still working, dealing with health issues she said she hadn't paid attention to while caring for Carl in his final months. Dolly Parton spent her whole life turning hardship into something people could hold onto: a song, a book mailed to a child's door, a joke about her own rhinestones. She used to say, "It takes a lot of money to look this cheap." What she never said cheaply was any of, if not the songs, not the giving, not the 60 years of showing up as exactly who she was. Rest easy, Dolly. You were always loved back.